Hello, my name is John Reynolds. Welcome to Extraordinary Life Stories. On this episode, I'm talking with Nadine Merabi. Nadine is an award-winning and celebrated fashion designer and the innovative founder of the luxury fashion brand Nadine Merabi. I want to know what was the catalyst and inspiration behind Nadine's entrepreneurial journey as a self-taught designer following her passion for dressmaking. As a successful and inspirational female founder, I want to know her journey as a female entrepreneur. I'm really looking forward to talking with Nadine, so let's get into it. Nadine, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me, who is Nadine Merabi?
Who is she? She's a girl who was born to a Lebanese father and an English mother. She's a girl who started a lot of her early career playing international hockey. And she's a girl who struggled outside of that in where she was going and what she was doing. She's a girl who, at the age of 30, was fed up trying to be accepted in life and, you know, trying to impress people and she just at some point decided that she stopped caring what everyone thought about her.
It's a defining moment, I'm sure.
Yeah. She's a girl who had no experience in the fashion industry, no training, no experience, but she's a girl who had a vision and a dream, and she's a girl who wouldn't let the word no stop her.
Brilliant. Formidable. The young Nadine growing up, you know, sounds like we parallel each other. I didn't get on at all well at school from an academic point of view, which made me feel like, you know, I wasn't going to be successful or didn't really have a trajectory because it was all about pass your exams, get a good job. What are your thoughts on that looking back now? You're a mum now to two kids as well, right? So that if you look at the fact that we both it didn't work for us, and then you look at how you're flourishing now, blossoming, what's broken in the school curriculum? What needs to change?
Yeah, I think growing up, I struggled slightly in the sense of I was good at sport, but I wasn't that academic. I was in the bottom set of every class, and I don't know, it just didn't go down well, and I was just confused. I excelled in my hockey because I was good at it. It wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do in life, but you just kind of got pushed that direction. And yeah, it was kind of like, are you really accepted if you're not smart enough, if you're not clever enough? And I never really felt I was, to be honest.
Yeah, I totally parallel that. And actually, you know, we probably both learned how to use a Bunsen burner at school, but haven't learned financial literacy. We all end up paying a mortgage or a rent. And mindfulness, and really importantly to this conversation, any kind of entrepreneurial kind of inspiration, if you like, unless you had that from your parents or people around you, because school is just, you know, a sort of tram lines of learn for passing exams to get a job. So take me through, you're sort of professional with sport, which was hockey.
Yeah.
You're not interested academically. So what career choice did you make?
At the time?
Yeah.
So I played international hockey for 10 years up until about the age of 24, something like that. And then I was like, right, what am I going to do now? So I went away to be a ski instructor. And I did a season out skiing, which just a bit fun, living life, experience something new. Then I came back and I was like, right, what am I going to do now? And it was at this time where I thought, do you know what? I'm going to make my own events. I'm going to create my own events. And it was when, you know, you could create an event on Facebook. You hired the venue, you created an event, and it was when you had to be on a guest list. And everyone just put the guest list names through during the week through Facebook, and then on the evening of the event I charged £20 for everyone to come into a bar which was free to normally walk into.
That's really cool. So there was entrepreneurial spirit there.
Yeah, I think, well, entrepreneurial, but also how am I going to earn any money?
Yeah, no, I love that. But you're taking that initiative, and so I'm interested because at what point did you stop doing that and ultimately become name and flashing lights, Nadine Merabi, from a fashion brand point of view?
So it was actually that helped me understand that I wanted to get into fashion, because I was basically a party planner, and I was doing events each week, midweek, weekends, everything, and I got to 29 and I had like an epiphany one night. I was in a club, I was dancing on a table, and I just thought, what am I doing? What am I doing in my life? I need more than this now. I feel like I've done it. It was fun. I've had a life experience doing it, but it's time for me to move on. And one good thing that happened whilst I was doing the events was I always needed something to wear. And so, I didn't necessarily have the funds to go and spend £3,000 on a dress, but I also didn't want just to buy off the high street where everyone else was wearing it. So I got to the age of 29. I remember I was on a train the next day after this night, and I was on a train and I just looked out the window and I thought, I'm just going to quit my job. I'm just going to quit my job and I'm going to go and buy a sewing machine and I'm going to work it out and I'm going to learn how to sew, because it can't be that hard to make a dress.
Had you ever had those thoughts before, like a young girl? Were you sort of creating or drawing dresses? Was it in there, or did it literally just come from, I've got no purpose and I want to follow my passion, and that was the moment you...
I think I always was creative and I always wanted to do my own thing, but I spent so many years doubting myself or listening to people saying, well, you're not experienced in that, or you've got no training in that, you haven't studied that, so how can you do that? How can you go into that industry? And like I said, I got to the age of nearly 30 and I was like, my head's going to explode. I need to just go and do something. This is my vision and I really, really believe I can do this. So I just went and did it.
So the vision, so you bought the sewing machine and the material, and you're now making dresses. And to sort of repeat what you said as well, to not be a £3,000 dress, but not be a kind of mass produced where you see two other girls at the party wearing it. How did you piece that together as a business? Because being an entrepreneur, if you believe Instagram, it's made to look easy. Look at my incredible view of the Dubai Marina and my Lamborghini and so on. It's not easy. So you've got a vision. Yeah. You've got passion and purpose. But how have you pieced it together to Nadine Merabi?
I had a vision of a product. I had a vision of style. I didn't have a perfect business plan, and I'll be honest with you, because a lot of people say, oh, how can I start this, because I don't have my 3-year business plan, or I don't have that, and everything's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect to start. You've got to start somewhere. So for me, I started off just doing bespoke dresses. So I would just make one-off dresses, either just creatively in my head, and I'd hired a rail in a pop-up shop where people could come and buy them, or I started to have clients come in and want me to make them dresses. And it kind of, this is 12 years ago, a lot of people look at my story and they think, oh, Nadine's done amazing. She's like an overnight success. No, I'm not. It's been really, really, really hard. And, there's been a lot of overnights. There's been a lot of blood, sweat and tears. And I've learned to become a designer and a seamstress whilst on the path of also growing this business.
So important to hear that, right? You're so right. At a certain point, and I've had this in the build-up to talking to you today, where I tell people who I'm filming, oh, I've got one of her dresses. Oh, I know. So I saw Amanda Holden wearing her dress, whatever it might be. They don't get the graft. And the scenario where it maybe nearly didn't even happen. There are so many stories like that. Have you got a scenario along that 12-year journey where it nearly didn't happen, or you nearly kind of just thought, okay, it's not going to work out?
Yeah, definitely. And, I'm actually really proud of myself to say, I've failed 10 times and I've got up 12 times. And, I'm going to fail again and I'm going to get up again, because that's just life. And, the only time you stop failing is when you stop striving to achieve. So I will definitely keep going. And every time I did fail, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad that happened, because I've learned so much from that and I know I'm not going to do that again. So, you
learn from our failures, right? Far more probably than the successes. And another key part of that sort of journey as well, there can be loneliness. You're an entrepreneur. Who have you had advising you, mentoring you along the way? And of course, actually, self-answering the question slightly, we're one person that has connected us, Steve Hewitt, former CEO for Gymshark for 10 years, awesome guy. He speaks so highly of you. He's such a fan of you and the business. How important is having a mentor and having some support when you're in those trenches as an entrepreneur? Yeah,
I think 100%. I spent a lot of years, like I say, making mistakes, sitting in the studio overnight, still being there at 8 in the morning when people, when I was opening up the shop, but I needed to go through that myself. I needed to feel like I have worked my butt off for this. And, I feel like I've worked my way to, you know, have someone like Steve as a mentor. You know, what he did to Gymshark and what he's actually doing right now with For Now is just incredible. And, you know, he's taught me, I used to think it was just about kind of, in terms of the business side, I used to think it was, you know, what we're doing to grow the business and how we're growing the business and what process is. And it's actually not, it's about the people. And all of a sudden, my business has completely changed because the people are the focus more so than which process we're using or, you know, which format we're going down.
Yeah, I love that. And actually just flipping that from talking about the things that haven't gone right and failures that, of course, you learn from. Sitting here now, Nadine Merabi as a brand is killing it. It's doing so well. How do you define success?
I mean, obviously everyone defines success in different ways. I feel like my definition of success is if I accomplish my purpose. My purpose is to celebrate and empower women. So if, you know, if I see a picture on Instagram that someone's tagged us in, feeling $1 million and saying how this was the, you know, the best moment that they've had recently and they felt amazing and it gave them so much confidence, that for me is success. If I, you know, I'm, you know, helping a friend and she's telling me that she really wants to try something but she's scared to, I'm like, we're all scared, you know, take the chance and follow your dream, take a risk and follow your dream. Obviously you've got to, you know, judge it, but it's really about getting that feeling from women to empower them, to give them confidence, whether it's what they're wearing, what they're doing, it's whether I'm spending time with my 2 daughters and not just spending time with them, but being present for them, which I think is just huge, huge for me. And also just my own intrinsic feeling, like I want to feel proud for myself. I want to feel like I'm continually growing, you know, continually striving to, whether it be in business, whether it be as a mother, whether it be in sport, whichever it is, I just want to keep feeling like I'm doing something that little bit extra.
Yeah, I get that. You mentioned sport, of course you were professional in sport until, you know, late 20s. You still keep fit now. When you were playing sport, there was always a challenge, there was a game to aim for, to try and win. How do you keep fit now? And how important is that physical fitness for all that goes into being an entrepreneur?
So, you know, I do think being fit, staying fit and healthy is very important. Like, if you're a high-performing individual, you've got to be high-performing in all of your life, in all areas of your life, and you've got to stay fit and healthy at the same time. I actually love running, which weirdly as a kid, when you're training and you have to go and do the bleep test and stuff like that, you don't enjoy it because you're being forced it. And all of a sudden now I'm like, I love running, I love having that time on my own, I love listening to a podcast. And, you know, some days it is a little bit more difficult where I'm like, oh, I'm tired, do I really want to do this? But my mentality is I get on the treadmill and I'm like, God, I'm so fortunate that I can run, because there are actually people out there that can't run, and that will be me one day, that can't just go and do a 10K that easily. So it's the appreciation and, you know, just not taking things for granted either in life, where you can easily say, oh, well, you know, I don't want to go to the gym this morning. Well, not everyone has that choice, that they can't do that.
I love that. I've actually, you've reminded me of something I'd long forgotten. Went to see my granddad in hospital, and he'd had a heart attack and he was not coming back from it. And it was an awful day, pouring with rain. I was probably 14 years old. And I went over to the window, having been talking to him, and I said, I was going to go for a bike ride this afternoon, but the weather's so awful. And there was a bit of a pause, and then he was looking out the window and he said, I'd do anything to be out there. And I left him that afternoon. I went out on the monster bike ride, got drenched, and that mindset, you know, I think there's an element of sport or adventure, or just trying to always have a sort of a appreciation that you can. So important. What about mentally? Because you mentioned podcasts, right? So that's really cool. So you go for a run, but you're actually mentally stimulating. Do you meditate? Do you breath work? And the reason why I ask is there's so much about being a successful CEO, founder, entrepreneur that you've got to win the day, win the morning, win the day, get up really early. Do you conform to that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's something which, again, they don't really, I might be wrong, but I don't feel like they teach it enough in schools. They'll teach physical education, but they won't teach mental education. And, for me, especially if I've had a busy day, my mind doesn't stop. Sometimes before I started getting into meditation, I would go to sleep and I would wake up and I'd not really slept, but I'd be like, I've just done a full day's work in my sleep. I've just, mentally gone through, or I've just done 7 designs in my sleep. And it's great, but not really, because you get fatigued and then you can't perform the next day. So meditation is something definitely I do before bed, just to try and take my mind away from everything. And I think a huge thing which made me realise kind of the power of the mind was when I was pregnant with my first child. My first thought was, I'm going to go into a hospital and have every drug possible and just basically get the baby born or cut out of me or whatever. And it was about 6 months in, COVID had hit, and I was like, I might need to look at different, options here. And I started getting into hypnobirthing. And honestly, if I can tell you how I'd gone from one mindset to the mindset where I have 2 natural births in the lounge of my house with no pain relief, no nothing, but literally just hypnobirthing and mental strength.
Wow.
And actually really enjoyable. I know that sounds so crazy, but it is the power of the mind, and that for me was a huge learning and probably a positive to COVID, because I don't think I would have had the time to really give myself that mental time to concentrate on it.
Yeah, and also like completely unrelated, but the fact that you have learned that power of your own mind, let alone inspiring other people to know that you can do that, that's huge life skill. Business is all transferable, it makes you formidable, super resilient.
I'm also really into paddle right now. So I've, obviously I'll go to the gym, I'll do weights, but I've now discovered a sport which, again, since I've last played hockey 15 years ago, I've not really felt that enjoyment of a sport. And, I started off just being like, oh, it's a bit like tennis. And the way I've got into it now, I'm like, no, this is like a game of chess, and this needs so much discipline to be able to play it. And even, you're talking about breath work, sometimes pressure is on when you play in a sport. And, one of my coping mechanisms, I'll just kind of walk back to the serving box and I'll do 3 deep breaths in, hold my breath for 3 seconds, and then breathe out. And it is, I think people think it's a bit silly sometimes, but it's oxygen to the brain. Yeah. It's, it's a fact. So
the other thing with paddle as well, because it's so I know some people that play and actually was looking to get into it as a business as well early, because it's just clearly spreading, and rightly so. Is it gives you that competitive outlet as well, because you strike me as someone that, and especially if you play sport for so long, like you're able to still facilitate that and look forward to the challenge to beat someone and take some frustration out, and you need that as a byproduct of being an entrepreneur, busy mum. How do you juggle the whole 2 young kids and a growing business and time for yourself as well, the paddles on? How do you manage that?
Yeah, I think it is, the gym and the paddle and stuff is my time for myself. People say, I can't believe you've got 2 young kids and you're doing what you're doing, but honestly, I absolutely love it. I this morning I woke up and I was like, when are they up? When are they up? I miss them. Where are they? And like, they're very good sleepers, thankfully. But, I just get so much enjoyment out of them. And I get, with kids, they have a dream. Anything is possible. And I miss that in adults, day to day now. People think, oh, I can't do this, I can't do that. I don't have the confidence to do this. Whereas, we should all take something back from being a kid where you're like, oh yeah, well, I can see a pink elephant in the sky or something like that, where it's just having that belief and imagination to create something or do something. Yeah. So yeah.
Natural curiosity as well, right? We get knocked out of you a lot. I had the pleasure of speaking to Stephen Fry earlier today, and he said he's a big kid himself, right? And I think that's where we can live. And do you know what it comes down to as well? Not just that stifling creativity, but having purpose. And you were so articulate earlier about the purpose, the mission of Nadine Merabi. And I love the fact that, and I kind of already know the answer, that it wouldn't be your dresses being worn by the biggest celebrity or something really glitzy. But my question is, what would be like you've made it? And I know it's not a destination because you've already said that, but Nadine Merabi, as a business that's growing and flourishing, what would be like a real, I've just achieved something huge, or like a North Star for you?
I think, we spend a lot of time kind of, like I say, empowering women, giving them confidence and doing a lot for people, buying our dresses. We really, really care about how they're feeling. And I'd like to be able to, again, touching on the Steve Hewitt and the people situation, is to reward the team more. I feel like, when someone walks in the office, when a colleague walks in the office and they say, oh, I've just had my mortgage accepted and I know it's because I've just had a pay rise, that for me is like, I've really been part of something and I'm helping other people as well. So yeah, I do feel that I don't think I'll ever feel, oh, I've just made it, anything like that, because I always kind of know I can help more and do more. And if I ever got out of fashion, I'm always thinking, I wouldn't start another brand. I'd want to help young girls, young women with confidence, with, following their dreams and taking risks and, just not having any self-doubt. So I think, there's many things in which I still want to achieve before I think I would ever get to the point of, oh, I've made it. But I do think, our leadership team, all my colleagues in the offices, in the warehouses, everything, to be able to reward them.
I can feel that, like you're a proper team. You might be the kind of leader, if you like, but you really care. And I love the fact that I can tell there's almost a frustration in you where you sort of got to 29 and then you're like, and now you're probably almost as probably like, can't imagine if I'd started earlier. But that suppression, almost like the sort of cork in the bottle, I can feel that coming off you as like proper drive.
Yeah.
You may know this already, I'm sure you do, but less than 2% of VC funding went to female founders and entrepreneurs last year, and even less the year before. Have you felt any kind of suppression as a female founder, or have you just not even noticed it because you're just so driven in making this all happen?
No, I think, we've been contacted as a business for private equity or VC, but, it has to be the right partner. I wouldn't do anything just for financial gain. It has to be, it's like a marriage at the end of the day, and you have to feel like I'm getting support, not just financially. And I think that would be kind of one of the prerequisites for me if I was going to join. But, this is my first child. This is my baby. I'm not here to sell out.
No.
Without a reason or
it's not a financial thing. It's very much something you're growing and you're building a community. And what I love about that is the fact that you can say that you didn't necessarily go on a beauty parade to try and find finance and it wasn't coming. You're being approached, and what it makes you wonder is, and this is so aligned with your mission, to inspire female founders to have the confidence to do this. That was a big draw for me to talk to you today. 2 daughters, 13 and 14. To follow their dreams and be inspired by people like yourself. It might well be that there aren't enough female founders actually coming through because of the traditional, it's the boy, it's the guy that goes out and sets up on his own. So you trailblazing and actually, especially in the world of fashion, because it's so visible. It's an inspiration to so many. If you could go back and give advice to the young Nadine with the experience, the perspective, maturity you've got now, and give that, I'm talking about that sort of late teens, that kind of career aspirations, what advice would you give?
I think, just touching on, I'll answer this question in a minute, but touching on what you said before, did you think, oh, you wish you would have done it younger? And I don't think I could have done it younger, because I wasn't the woman I was. Again, I was telling you, I cared too much about what people thought. I didn't have, I did have self-doubt whether I could do it. I knew I wasn't experienced or trained in it. And, all of a sudden, I'm like, I've gone through this, learning phase, which has made me the person I am to be able to do this. I think if I was going to say anything to myself back then is, which I realised at 30, stop caring what people think about you, which is just, you know, simple to look back and
The
say
fear of judgment.
Yeah, fear of judgment,
Which is the fear of failure as
acceptance.
well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I was craving acceptance, you know, whether it was through a boyfriend's family or whether it was through being, you know, smart enough to be in the middle set or, you know, just anything. You know, I grew up without, my dad passed away when I was 18, and, you know, it was from that age that I lived on my own, and that whole journey was, you know, I was penniless for, you know, quite a lot of the time, but, you know, I didn't have anyone to rely on, I didn't have anything to fall back on, but that made me the person I am. And so I don't look back at that and think, God, that was an awful time. I look back at it and think, what a life lesson that was.
You actually appreciate it for what it was. Do you know, it's like your personality and your personal brand is so, well, it's literally the name of the business, right? And they're so aligned. Do you think that's why Nadine Merabi as a brand has been so successful in what was a really established, super competitive industry?
I think, you know, it goes back to the fact that I didn't know what I was doing. So all of a sudden,
naivety was actually a positive.
All of a sudden there's no fear. You know, you'll see it in my designs, even, you know, part of our, you know, team, in our product and design team, I've got way more experienced pattern cutters than me. And they're like, Nadine, you can't do that. And I'm like, why can't I do it? And like, because that's just not what you're supposed to do. I'm like, listen, we can do anything here. So all of a sudden, the world's your oyster. You can create whatever you want. You can try anything. If you want to put really nice outer fabric as lining because it'll suck you in, then that's what we're going to do. So yeah, I feel like there's just been a lot of learnings throughout, a lot of growth throughout. And I forgot your question.
Oh, just how you've done so well in such a competitive industry.
Oh yeah. And I think as well, you'll tell from, I'd like to hope that you tell from my designs that there's so much thought and care that goes into them, and maybe you won't because you haven't tried one on, but there is so much attention to detail. There is so much, you know, even in the packaging, and when it arrives, there's like love flowing through it. There's love flowing through it, and you know, I think when people receive a Merabi and they wear a Merabi and they get a stranger coming up to them complimenting them on, you know, that shows that the care and attention's there. So I don't think you get that a lot in fashion brands, not necessarily nowadays with too much fast fashion and everything that's going on. So
well, it goes back to that purpose and passion and heart, which is your personality coming through. Is there someone, a celebrity, a well-known person that you would absolutely love to see in one of your dresses one day? Or has it already happened?
I don't know. I always think, oh, I'd love that person to wear something, and then someone wears it and I'm like, yeah, okay, they've worn it, but I don't know them. I haven't met them, or I don't know them. I think, you know, work ethic for me and everything, and just the fact she's just amazing. I'd say Beyonce.
Cool. That's really cool. It's going to happen.
Yes, it will happen. It absolutely will happen. Her mum actually wore us not that long ago, and there's a picture of her and her mum holding hands. And
you are inspirational to talk to. The whole purpose, passion is. I've never felt it quite as strong. It's brilliant, and I love the fact that it's all fulfilling and such a successful business. And I know how busy you are as well. So thank you for coming to talk to me today. I hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've loved it. Thank you.
I loved it. Thank you.
Thank you.